through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Fahrenheit.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, Liz Truss will succeed Boris Johnson as our new Prime Minister after defeating fishy Rishi Sunak in an embittered and extended Tory leadership contest.
During this leadership campaign, I campaigned as a Conservative and I will govern as a Conservative.
But Truss is already facing dark forces out to destroy her, including the biased BBC.
Thank you so much for coming in, and whatever happens, do come back. Well, I was going to say, going for some reaction from our panel, because listening to that interview at the desk and seeming to applaud Joe Lycett, the comedian.
So I'll explain why Truss must prove she's the new Iron Lady and take back control of Britain to defeat slippery Starmer and scheming Sturgeon in a special digest next. Then I'll get the reaction of my superstar panel, the Daily Telegraph's associate editor Christopher Hope, the broadcaster Nina Mishkov and the former MEP Belinda de Lucy. Then we're asking whether Liz Truss can prove her doubters wrong and be a competent Prime Minister. We've got a stellar lineup of political masterminds to debate that. Tory grandees David Mallor and Edwina Curry, former Conservative MP and barrister Jerry Hayes, ex-Conservative MEP David Campbell-Bannerman, and political commentator Emily Hewitson do battle in the clash at 9:25. I want your thoughts too. As Truss is accused of snubbing a handshake with Sunak after she was declared winner, how can the party unite behind the new PM after such a divisive campaign? The Conservative media's leading ladies, Madeline Grant and Olivia Utley, return on that at 9:50. Now, Truss was booed by a lefty mob as she entered Conservative Party HQ today. So is it time the Tories took a more robust approach to its left-wing haters? Higher Education Minister Andrea Jenkyns, who sparked controversy with this one-fingered salute to anti-Boris protesters, joins me live from Westminster in the next hour. With Boris Johnson already odds-on to replace Liz Truss as next Conservative leader, believe it or not, can your head take that one? So should the outgoing PM stage a comeback or just accept his frontline political career is now over? That's our big debate at 10. We'll also celebrate some of Boris's most bonkers bits as he prepares to leave number 10. More of our swashbuckling PM's greatest hits coming up in the media buzz. As the Queen prepares to swear in Britain's third female Prime Minister, the Duchess of Sussex continued her relentless publicity drive with an inane speech on gender equality of all things.
And there I was the girl from Suits, and I was invited to pull up a seat at the table.
So are Harry and Meghan actually trying to steal the attention from our next Prime Minister with another unwanted return to these shores? I'll have the latest for you at 10:30. You will cringe. And as Priti Patel resigns as Home Secretary, how can her hotly tipped replacement Suella Braverman defuse the ticking time bomb that is the Channel migrant crisis? Star Daily Mail columnist Stephen Glover lays out his bold island plan in Uncancelled at 10:40. Another one of the mammoth challenges facing our new PM is fixing our crumbling health service. Our positive professor Carol Sikora unveils his 5-point plan for Truss to save the NHS in her first 100 days in office in a critical briefing at 9:40. We'll have the historic front pages on the way too, and brand new Greatest Britain and Uni and Jackass before the night is out. This is Dan Wootton Tonight. Let's go. But breaking tonight, Britain's next Prime Minister, Liz Truss, is preparing to form her cabinet ahead of entering number 10 Downing Street tomorrow afternoon following her meeting with the Queen at Balmoral. But already her top team is taking shape, with Patel resigning as Home Secretary. GB News political editor Darren McCaffrey joins me live now from Downing Street. Darren, are the Boris and Rishi loyalists all on the way out of cabinet?
I think it's looking like they may well be, Dan. Tonight, Liz Truss is celebrating, having a party, frankly, in the City of London before she becomes Britain's third female Prime Minister, or 56th Prime Minister tomorrow. But you're right, she has been working for the last couple of weeks on who might be in a new cabinet. We're going to get full details tomorrow. It looks like Kwasi Kwarteng is almost certainly going to become the new Chancellor. Suella Braverman going to take over from Priti Patel as Home Secretary. You're right in saying that she resigns this evening rather than being sacked tomorrow. And it looks like James Cleverly is going to be the Foreign Secretary. I think the big question, though, for Liz Truss is, given the fact that her victory wasn't as emphatic as some of her supporters wanted today, is she willing to reach out to try and unite the party? Because the divisions within the Conservative Party will be a troublesome spot for her in the weeks and months to come, not least of all as well when she has to make those really difficult decisions on energy prices, on trying to tackle migration, on trying to grow the economy, and also to try and help the NHS this winter. But it is going to be an historic day tomorrow as Liz Truss goes to Balmoral to see the Queen before arriving back here to address the nation, as I say, becoming Britain's 56th Prime Minister at a time that has probably not faced as difficult a task since Margaret Thatcher went into number 10 back in 1979.
Political editor Darren McCaffrey. Darren, thank you so much. Of course, my digest on the day's events coming up in just a moment, and then my superstar panel weigh-in, associate political editor at the Daily Telegraph, Christopher Hope, former MEP, campaigner and political commentator Belinda de Lucy, and we're going to have Lee Anderson with us live from Westminster shortly. But before all of that, the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Dan, thank you. Good evening to you. The Conservative Party has selected Liz Truss as its new leader, meaning she'll become the UK's next Prime Minister. Ms Truss beat rival Rishi Sunak by a 57% majority vote of Tory MPs. And Her Majesty the Queen is scheduled to formally appoint her as Prime Minister at Balmoral tomorrow. In a speech following her victory, Truss said it was an honour to be elected, and she promised to deliver on energy and the NHS.
It's an honour to be elected as leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party. I will deliver a bold plan to cut taxes and grow our economy. I will deliver on the energy crisis, dealing with people's energy bills, but also dealing with the long-term issues we have on energy supply.
Well, as Liz Truss prepares for government at a party in the City of London tonight, Priti Patel has announced she'll resign as Home Secretary. In a letter to Boris Johnson, she said she was proud to have served in his cabinet and that she would stay in position until a new Home Secretary was appointed by Liz Truss. Ms Patel has said she'll continue to work from the backbenches. Dozens of people protested in central London today against the government's decision to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. Demonstrators chanted "Refugees are welcome here" outside the Royal Courts of Justice as a hearing challenging the plan continued inside. The High Court heard Rwanda was an authoritarian state that tortures and murders those it considers to be its opponents. The Home Office has countered that, saying the country is safe and secure. Well, that news comes as more than 2,000 people crossed the English Channel over the weekend. GB News has found almost 27,500 people have been intercepted so far this year. That's just short of the 28,500 people who made the same journey over the whole of last year. The two suspects in a stabbing rampage in Canada are still on the run, but police say they have enough evidence to charge them both with murder. Damien and Miles Sanderson are accused of killing 10 people and injuring another 18 yesterday. Police say they attacked people in the Canadian province of Saskatchewan at 13 separate locations. Some of the victims were targeted, Others were victimised at random. A warrant has been issued for their arrests. And as you've been hearing, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have appeared on stage in Manchester tonight at a global summit for young leaders. Meghan Markle delivered the keynote speech, which focused on gender equality. It's her first address in the UK since quitting as working royal more than 2 years ago. The One Young World Summit is an event bringing together thousands of young leaders from almost 200 countries.
The important work can't wait for tomorrow. And this week, the world is watching as you cement your place in history by showcasing the good that you are doing today, in the present moment, as we embrace the moment of now to create a better tomorrow.
Meghan Markle in Manchester tonight. That's it. You're up to date on TV, online and on DAB+ radio. You're with GB News, where it's time for Dan Wootton tonight.
Well, it was always going to be a bit of a hollow victory, wasn't it? I mean, thank the Lord, it's Liz Truss, though, who will be our next Prime Minister tomorrow, not fishy Rishi Sunak. That's a defeat, let me tell you, for the Boris backstabbers, the political blob, the mainstream media, especially the BBC, the lockdown and vaccine zealots of SAGE, the World Health Organisation, the World Economic Forum, and Matt Hancock, whose cabinet comeback is now scuppered forevermore. But, of course, I believe this was an unnecessary anti-democratic leadership campaign sparked by Tory MPs trapped in the Westminster bubble with no idea of the huge challenges facing hard-working Brits, which made this vanity contest feel so unsavoury. That said, once the race was on, it was essential for Truss to triumph, to save Britain from the elites and the globalists trying to destroy our very way of life. The challenge facing her now is immense, the biggest of any new PM since Margaret Thatcher, and the malevolent and sinister dark forces who are out to destroy her will be difficult to keep at bay. After all, they're emboldened following their successful coup against Boris Johnson. That's why Liz Truss must be the new Iron Lady if she has any hope of defeating the Starmer-Sturgeon coalition from hell. Let's be straight. She's going to need balls of steel to face down the challenges facing this country, especially given her solutions will go against the orthodoxy of the political establishment and MSM. Her steady-as-she-goes victory speech today suggested she believes she can do it.
I know that our beliefs resonate with the British people. Our beliefs in freedom, in the ability to control your own life, in low taxes, in personal responsibility. And I know that's why people voted for us in such numbers in 2019. And as your party leader, I intend to deliver what we promised those voters right across our great country. During this leadership campaign, I campaigned as a Conservative and I will govern as a Conservative. And my friends, we need to show that we will deliver over the next 2 years. I will deliver a bold plan to cut taxes and grow our economy. I will deliver on the energy crisis, dealing with people's energy bills, but also dealing with the long-term issues we have on energy supply.
But anyone thinking Liz Truss is about to enter the honeymoon period granted to most new leaders is deluded. In fact, the onslaught to force her from office will begin the moment she enters number 10 tomorrow afternoon. It's very telling that the institutionally biased British-bashing corporation known as the BBC didn't even wait for Truss to get the job. They illustrated how the corporation intends to treat the new PM during Laura Kuenssberg's new Sunday morning show, where the lefty comedian Joe Lycett was shamefully allowed to mock Truss with unfunny sarcasm.
Thank you so much for coming in, and whatever happens, do come back. Well, I was going to say, going for some reaction from our panel, because listening to that interview at the desk and seeming to applaud Joe Lycett, the comedian.
You know exactly what's going to happen. I think you're reassured, I'm reassured. Are you reassured?
Well, Emily Thornberry, you're smart.
The haters will say that you've had 12 years of the Tories and that we're sort of at the dregs of what they've got available. and that Liz Truss is sort of like the backwash of the available MPs. I wouldn't say that because I'm incredibly right-wing. Well, as Liz said there, she said it would be wrong to predict the future, even though loads of people have predicted that we're going to have real issues with paying our energy bills.
Now, that typical coverage from our public broadcaster came just 2 days after the BBC broadcast this smorgasbord of bias on Have I Got News For You on Friday night.
It made sense for Boris to come on this panel show because he could have done Would I Lie to You, but you occasionally have to tell the truth on that. Refers to Theresa May's John Lewis decor in the Prime Minister's flat, which the Johnsons replaced with gold wallpaper. Now, with Liz Truss moving in, Downing Street is believed to be getting quotes for padded wallpaper.
This government's been described as a zombie government, which I think is unfair because zombies value brains. So it doesn't really...
This show, by the way, has been billed by the BBC as a tribute.
Tribute? Funny way to spell good riddance.
To be honest, and I really mean this, the Beeb's coverage isn't that far from the bile being spewed by Russian state media today. Watch.
Great Britain today is a striking example of the implementation in real life of George Orwell's dystopia, 1984, where ignorance is strength. And so, stupidity has triumphed. Liz Truss has become the new Prime Minister. If Boris Johnson achieved Brexit, Elizabeth Truss wants to achieve something entirely different, the end of the world.
Now look, the odds are stacked against Liz Truss. Many in positions of power are willing her to fail and will do all they can to depose a second Tory PM. Truss will only succeed if, like Thatcher, she sticks to her principles no matter the pressure to make Britain energy secure, to stop the illegal invasion of our country via the Channel, to defeat lawless Britain, to slash taxes, to guarantee our freedoms and civil liberties, and to wage a war on woke. For the sake of this United Kingdom, I am willing her to succeed. Well, joining me now, live from Westminster, is Conservative MP for Ashfield and Liz Truss supporter Lee Anderson, alongside two of my superstar panellists, Associate Editor at the Daily Telegraph, Christopher Hope, and the former Brexit Party MEP, the campaigner and political commentator, Belinda de Lucy. Lee Anderson, can your party unite after what has been such a toxic and embittered leadership campaign?
Well, of course it can, Dan. I mean, let's be honest now. I see this as a one door closing, another door opening. It's a fantastic opportunity now for our new Prime Minister, Liz Truss, who I've got every confidence in, to take us in a different direction to the direction we've been travelling for the past few years. Yes, she's been dealt a poor hand, and yes, the mainstream media, the left, the Guardian, the BBC, whoever will attack her at every opportunity. But I think she's a strong lady. She's going to be a strong leader. And I think if the parliamentary party get behind her, like I know we can do, then all I can see over the next 2 years is positive outcomes for this great country of ours. Look, it is a difficult time that we're in at the moment. Lots of people wanted to fail. I want to see her succeed. The people of Ashfield wanted to succeed, and the people of the UK wanted to succeed. So we must get behind her and get through these terrible times.
But Christopher Hope, you've got to admit, the vast majority of people at Westminster, the Blob, the establishment, certainly the BBC, which we'll come to shortly, they are willing Truss to fail. I've seen it constantly since the announcement at 12:30 today.
I think, Dan, you've got to break that down into two things. I mean, when did Lee start voting for Liz Truss after backing Kevin Badenoch originally in the leadership campaign? A lot of MPs, only about a third of them voted for Liz Truss at all, and she only came through on the rails at the 5th time of voting. So even Tory MPs don't really want her to win. There are other people they think might be better. I wonder what made Lee decide to switch camps from Kevin Badenoch to Liz Truss.
Yeah. Well, let me come back there, Dan. I don't know if Christopher's aware that Kemi got knocked out So I could only back who was on the ballot paper. So that's a little bit silly, Christopher. You know, I backed Kemi from the outset. Once she got knocked out, I don't know if you know how the ballot works, but you can only back somebody that's on the ballot paper. Maybe you need to come and speak to me in Parliament tomorrow. I can explain it to you, because obviously you're confused with how the system works. No, you're not teasing at all, mate. You're being facetious. So come and have a chat with me tomorrow on the screen, and we can sort it out.
Belinda de Lucy, let's sort this out now. Belinda, do you feel like the odds are stacked against Liz Truss?
Well, I'm not quite sure, because if the sort of usual suspects in the BBC and the like are anti-Liz Truss, that bodes really well for her. I think it's a good sign. My biggest fear would be that the BBC embraced her, or the usual suspects thought she was wonderful, but they don't. So that is a good sign. I see it as a strength, not a weakness.
I do too, actually. Now, Lee Anderson, I have to ask you about the BBC coverage over the weekend, because for me, this was a disgrace. It was completely indicative of what we're going to see from our public broadcaster. I feel, Lee, like they're emboldened by the fact that they helped bring down Boris Johnson, and they're planning to go even harder on Liz Truss. Am I wrong, Lee?
Well, look, I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures. And this Joe comedian chap that was on yesterday, I never knew he was a comedian, to be honest with you, Dan. I thought that when they said the comedian was on the show, I thought it was Emily Thorne. It's not funny at all.
There, definitely. I agree with that.
Well, it needs investigating. It needs investigating. Yeah. But it's typical BBC. They are the official opposition of this country at the moment. They will do anything. You know, they're wheeling out people like Lineker. They've got Emily Thornberry on there yesterday. I actually thought she was the comedian that was on the show yesterday. Look, don't take them seriously. You know, if we want to tackle this cost of living crisis, the first thing I would do is scrap the BBC licence and put 160 quid a year back in the hard-working people of this country. Put it back in their pocket. You know, Lineker's on 2 million quid. You've got other people earning £1 million a year. You've got biased news presenters of the corrupt BBC earning 200 or 300 grand a year. Absolute joke. I advise anybody that's watching this show tonight, rip your licence up and chuck it in the bin. And if they come knocking on your door, tell them to clear off.
Amen to that. Lee Anderson, what a stirring call to kick off the show. Thank you, Lee. Live from Westminster alongside two of my superstar panellists tonight, Associate Editor of the Daily Telegraph, Christopher Hope, and the former MEP campaigner and political commentator, Belinda de Lucy. They are here all night. But also coming up, another of the mammoth challenges facing Liz Truss is fixing our crumbling health service. Our positive Professor Carol Sikora unveils his 5-point plan for how to save the NHS in her first 100 days. That's at 9:40. But up next in The Clash, we're asking whether Liz Truss can prove her doubters wrong and simply be a competent Prime Minister. We've got a stellar lineup of political masterminds to debate that. Tory grandees David Mallor and Edwina Curry, former Conservative MP and barrister Jerry Hayes, ex-Conservative MEP David Campbell-Bannerman, and political commentator Emily Hewitson. They will all do battle next. I want your thoughts, though. They are most important on this show, as you know. Email me, dan@gbnews.uk. Tweet me using the handle @GBNews. Our poll running there too. The results and The Clash coming up in just 2 minutes' time.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
to each and every one of you
for helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
on radio and online.
We're proud to be
the People's Channel,
Britain's
news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Carol Sikora and Conservative leading ladies Emily Carver and Madeline Grant are still to come this hour, but first it's time for the clash. She's not even officially Prime Minister yet, and already Labour has launched its first attack ad against Liz Truss. Now, naturally, it's a complete hatchet job in which they take the Guardian's lead by dishonestly twisting her decade-old comments about British graft and productivity and taking them out of context to try and turn the British workforce against her. Watch.
Say it's all Europe that's causing us all these problems. It's all it's migrants that cause these problems. And actually, what needs to happen is, the more graft. The British workers produce less per hour, and that's a combination of kind of skill and application. If you look at productivity, it's very, very different in London from the rest of the country. Essentially, it's partly a sort of mindset and attitude thing.
And despite Truss not even having started in a new role, graceless Keir Starmer decided not to offer his best wishes, but instead branded her an enemy of working Brits.
Well, we've heard far more from the latest Prime Minister about cuts to corporation tax over the summer than we have about the cost of living crisis, the single most important thing that's bearing down on so many millions of households. And that shows not only that she's out of touch, but that she's not on the side of working people.
So Labour are doing everything they can to ensure that she fails, as they should, as the opposition. But what do you think? Will Liz Truss be a competent Prime Minister? It's a simple question, but I'm desperate to know what you think. Email me, dan@gbnews.uk. Tweet me at gbnews while you're there. You can vote in our Twitter poll. Those results coming up shortly. But to do battle on this, I'm joined by the political masterminds of Tory Big Beast and former Health Secretary David Malla, former Conservative and UKIP MEP David Bannerman, political commentator Emily Hewitson, former Conservative Minister Edwina Currie, and criminal barrister and former Tory MP Jerry Hayes. David Malla, let me start with you. You're not convinced, are you, that Truss is going to be competent?
I don't see how anyone can be, but that doesn't mean I'm against her. And I hope that she will do well. But the real problem that she's got is exactly the one that you have exposed, that most of the voices in the media will be against her. And what she has to do, therefore, is to put them on one side, like her heroine, Mrs. Thatcher, did, and appeal directly to the British people. I think she would have made a better start if she had shaken hands with Rishi Sunak before she went up and made her acceptance speech, because one of the problems that she inherits from Boris Johnson is a very divided party. I think what she has to do is also to try to speak the same language as the British people and get back to the Thatcherite principles of stating policy in a way that people will understand and relate to. But she does have problems. I mean, Labour have got a leader who is boring and has a boring voice. What Liz Truss has to avoid is not being boring and having a boring voice herself. I mean, she really is going to have to do what Margaret Thatcher did, which is to work on how she presents herself. And, there's often a joke around that can always help us at moments like this. The danger for Liz Truss is that people wonder whether, she thinks charisma is December the 25th, and she's really got to work on that.
I mean, look, David Campbell Bannerman, I understand where Malla is coming from there. In saying that, we did see improvement over the course of the leadership contest, didn't we? She got better. She performed stronger the more that we saw of her.
I like her honesty. I mean, she said, you know, she's not the slickest presenter. We know that, but she did get a lot better. I went to a number of the hustings. I was at Norwich, I was at London in person. What I like about Liz Truss is that she's got a great core, you know, she's got a real resilience. That's the word that keeps coming back from Oxford friends, etc. And she also has enormous political experience. She's the longest-serving cabinet minister. And she's gone from trade to the Treasury or the environment to justice. She understands a lot of these policy issues, and so she can hit the ground running. I've got actually a lot of confidence in her, and I think she'll surprise a lot of people because she has a lot of guts and she's prepared to make decisions.
Jerry Hayes, you're not convinced?
Well, I think she could be good. She could be adequate. Perhaps even she might be great. But at least the grotesque experiment of Boris Johnson has gone. And the fact of the matter is, those Johnsonites who want to get him back have got to stop. We've got to have a united party. Let's have serious government now. Let's have policies which are thought through. Let's have a cabinet which is competent and honourable and honest. And if she can get all that together, we're in with a fighting chance of getting this moving properly and perhaps winning the next election. But she's got to have, as she said, a party, a government of all the talents. And let's see what happens tomorrow. If it's the same old faces, then forget about it.
Well, I just want to bring David Campbell-Bannerman back on that. David, I thought you might want to respond to the criticisms of Boris Johnson there, because, of course, you, along with Lord Cruddas, have actually been leading the charge for Boris to come back, or for at least him to be on the ballot.
Yes, I mean, what we wanted with a Boris ballot was a yes or no, whether to keep him or not. And we thought that was really important because a lot of people were threatening to just spoil their ballot papers, and that's very bad for the party. But they haven't done that, fortunately. A lot of people have just backed Liz, and quite rightly. I mean, Boris, you know, I think it's outrageous to attack Boris. I mean, I've been a Conservative in 13 years of Labour rule. It's not a happy place. And Boris Johnson gave us an 80-seat majority, you know, the best since 1987. So why on earth is he being attacked by Conservatives? Whose side are they on? Do they want a Labour government? But, you know, Boris will always be around. I think he had a super record on delivering Brexit. That's very important to me. The vaccine programme, well ahead of the rest of the world. Ukraine, levelling up. There's a long list, and he's done an awful lot, and who knows what happens in the future.
So whose side are you on, Jerry Hayes?
I'm on the side of competence, honesty, decency, and serious government. Government who can implement policies which are going to be very difficult, which are going to cost a lot of money, and tough decisions are going to have to be made. I want to support Liz Truss. I don't want to go back to Boris Johnson. Gosh, looking at Edwina, she's got him hanging in the background.
Yes. Well, I want to bring Edwina in, because Edwina, it was interesting, wasn't it? 18% of Tories didn't actually vote. Edwina, that seems like quite a high percentage, given that Tory members are usually very engaged in the democratic process. Do you think that may have been a reaction about Boris being deposed?
I mean, there are lots of good points to be made tonight. One of them should be, thank heaven for GBNews. At least we get the opportunity as Tories to debate and discuss what needs to be done and where we're going on all of this. In the end, what really matters is not the campaign. I just wish it had been over an awful lot quicker. We actually haven't had any government for about 7-8 weeks. And at a time of such problems, that's not the way Tories should be behaving. But what happens now, and particularly what happens this week and in the next few days, the announcements that are made about how to tackle the cost of living, how to tackle gas prices, what exactly is going to be done, not merely for households, but for businesses as well, to get us through this difficult winter. That's what everyone is going to judge our Prime Minister and our government on in future. If we make a mess of things over the next few months, then we can kiss goodbye to the general election when it comes in 2 years' time. In fact, it's less than 2 years. We're going to have to really work very hard on this. Unity is essential. I'm sure the Tories will give it. I really don't give a toss where Boris gets up to or what he does from now. I wish him all the best. I hope he makes lots and lots of money for all those kids of his. That's what a father ought to be doing, providing for his children. But when it comes to it, in the end, we need strong government with wise decisions. We need Liz to learn how to make a speech properly, how to write it. I would say to her, remember that deliver is what midwives do. You're not a midwife, you're the Prime Minister. You need to be much, in a way, grander about everything, but take the right decisions for the sake of us all.
And Emily Hewitson, this is the same problem that you have with Liz Truss, right? You actually agree with lots of her policies, but you're concerned about her presentation.
Yes, exactly. And as a result of that, I knew I definitely wasn't going to vote for Rishi Sunak, but I decided actually to spoil my ballot, which a lot of people disagreed with. They said it was a waste of a vote, but actually I think a spoiled ballot is a vote in itself. But yeah, the main issue I have with her is I don't see her as an election winner. I think she's got some great policies. I'm very in favour of kind of her low tax stance. But just the way that she delivers speeches is a massive concern. And I think that, you know, with how presidential our elections have come, whether people like it or not, it is a lot of focus on the person. And she does that awful thing where she pauses for an applause. And then there's that awful gap before people realise that they're supposed to be applauding. Little things like that that she really needs to work on. But I would say if she could put together a good cabinet with lots of the popular choices and kind of the proper Conservatives like Kemi Badenoch and Suella Braverman, those types, that if she became quite reliant on that cabinet, that, you know, maybe we could change it this time and we could focus more on the policies rather than the person for a change, which we haven't had for a while.
David Mellor, the Cabinet tomorrow is going to be absolutely fascinating. I don't like playing identity politics, right, but I wrote a column in the Mail Online earlier and I said, actually, you know what, yes, this is a very diverse cabinet, great, 3 female prime ministers, but actually, I hope she doesn't rule out all the old straight white men, because I'm hoping to see David Frost in the cabinet, I'm hoping to see Ian Duncan Smith back, I'm also hoping to see John Redwood back. What about you, David? Who do you want to see in the cabinet tomorrow to prove that Liz Truss is taking this job seriously?
I'd really rather take the time we've got together to I mean, look, the best bums on the right seats, there will always be disagreements about that. But what we've had from this group, very diverse group, is a lot of advice that Liz Truss, if she's sensible, will take. She has to clean up her presentation act, and she has to recognise that since she's not going to get a fair shake from a lot of the media, she's got to develop the way that Mrs. Thatcher had. You know, I was a member of Mrs. Thatcher's government for 9 years. I had therefore the occasion to meet her on a few occasions. And I can tell you, she was one hell of a tough lady, but she took a lot of interest in how she looked. She took a lot of interest in how she spoke. And she was a very determined woman. But the other problem, and this is quite a serious problem, is that Margaret Thatcher was not a one-woman band. For instance, my old patron, William Whitelaw, who was her deputy, and she once notoriously said, everyone needs a Willie. Well, you know, she had a Willie. And basically, Willie Whitelaw was a strong man who kept the government and the party in line. Geoffrey Howe took all the flack. But at the end of the day, when you look at the way that her government transformed the British economy, the man at the heart of that was Geoffrey Howe. Now, I have to ask this question. You know, there are too many lightweights at the top of Conservative politics at the moment. And who are the cabinet ministers who are going to be able to be Willie Whitelaw or Geoffrey Howe? It doesn't matter their sex, it doesn't matter their colour, but they've got to be good. I remain to be persuaded that a lot of these people are good enough for the task ahead, which is mammoth.
OK, no, I've got that. Edwina Curry, I just wanted to ask you about the cost of living, or as I call it, the cost of lockdown crisis, the energy catastrophe, as lots of people refer to it. Now, you've actually taken a lot of flack over the past few days for challenging that narrative, which is being developed by folk like Martin Lewis. I actually think that's really important that you are bold enough to do that, because there is a sense of doom, isn't there, being put in the air by the mainstream media. And it is political, isn't it, Edwina? We have to be honest about that.
Well, I gather that one of the clips of this morning's altercation with Martin Lewis has been viewed about 2.5 million times on Twitter. Last time I was that popular, I was in the jungle. So I'm used to that kind of thing. It doesn't bother me. But you're right. It is actually a very important debate. Do we flap around being very emotional, putting our head in our hands, as Martin did on national TV this morning? Or do we concentrate, really try and support people, give good advice and sensible advice? You know, we've been living off very cheap gas for a very, very, very long time. And so we've neglected a load of very sensible things like proper insulation or how much we use the gas and so on. The whole generations have no idea how to do that. And at the same time, business has been using gas in a very profligate way. We've been using very, very cheap gas that came originally out of the North Sea. It was one of the things that buoyed up the Thatcher government, as David Mellor will remember. We knew it was sooner or later it was going to come to an end. What we were not expecting was that Putin was going to turn the taps off. You know, we are involved in a European war. We're all involved in this war. It's the Ukrainians that are fighting, but the whole of Europe is involved in all of this. And until Putin is defeated, that's likely to be the case. Now, I'm hopeful that that will happen by the end of this winter. And I'm hopeful that one of the things that Liz mentioned in her acceptance speech was doing something about improving supply of energy. But at the same time, we've all got to be thoughtful and sensible. It's the point that you've made over and over and over again during COVID, that either the government tells us all what to do and takes that burden on and disappoints us, or some of us actually, in our millions, take some responsibility, take some action and learn how to help ourselves. I think we need to do both.
Indeed. Former Conservative Minister Edwina Currie. Thank you so much to the former Health Secretary David Mellor, former Conservative MEP David Bannerman, the political commentator Emily Hewitson, and the criminal barrister and former Tory MP Jerry Hayes. What a lineup. So who do you agree with? Will Liz Truss be a competent Prime Minister? From Brenda on Twitter. I think there is more to Truss than meets the eye. Just watch her go when she hits the ground running. Go, Liz! From Rango. It's too early to say. However, these next 2 to 3 months will go a long way to determine whether she gets re-elected in 2023 or 2024, or that Starmer governs by default. And from Joan, yes, she'll be competent, but only if the media let her get on with the job. And your verdict is now in. It's a split opinion. 58% of you agree that Liz Truss will be a competent Prime Minister. 42% of you unconvinced. Coming up, as Truss is accused of snubbing a handshake with Rishi Sunak after she was declared winner today, how can the party unite behind Truss after such a divisive campaign? The Conservative media's leading ladies, Madeline Grant and Olivia Utley, return on that at 9:50. But next, another of the mammoth challenges facing Truss is fixing our crumbling health service. Our positive Professor Carol Sikora unveils his 5-point plan for her to save the NHS within her first 100 days. He'll have a critical briefing on that straight after the break.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
for helping our great nation.
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
On radio and online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, Talking Pints over a drink, we have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Our Conservative leading ladies are coming up, but first, the next Prime Minister Liz Truss today declared she will tackle the crisis facing the NHS.
We'll deliver on the National Health Service.
Now, she's reportedly lining up staunch ally and current Work and Pensions Secretary Therese Coffey for the role of Health Secretary. Coffey is also tipped to be Truss's Deputy Prime Minister, underlining the importance that's being given to the health portfolio. And MPs think that appointment will keep the NHS at the top of the new government's agenda. But what actually needs to be done to save our crumbling NHS, which is just a black hole now, which sucks 45% of all government funding? Well, our positive professor, Carol Sikora, has a bold 5-point plan that if Truss follows, he believes could save the NHS in her first 100 days. And Carol Sikora joins me now. Carol, OK, let's run through these points. So the first thing, you say that the NHS has got to empower doctors to manage services and make them responsible.
I think that's the key. Let the specialists do what they can, whether they're specialists in cancer like me or heart disease, whether they're in primary care, GPs, let them run the services. We've also got to streamline hospital discharges. 20% of people in hospital across Britain tonight don't need to be in hospital. They're waiting for something. They're waiting for social care. And that's not good enough. We've got to get them out. We've got to have step-down facilities. It's something like £700 in hospital for a night. We can keep them in very comfortable facilities for something like £200. We've just got to be imaginative. We've also
and then your third point, Carol, is you say stop political correctness and most of this ridiculous mandatory training, which must cost so much money, Carol.
It makes money. It's an industry. I have to do it every year. I do these courses. Now, some I don't mind. For example, cardiac arrest routines and so on. Any doctor can be called in an emergency. It's worth doing. I got top marks, Dan, when I did it. And all the young doctors are very envious. They were jealous. They say, oh, you've done it for so many years. You know how to do it. But seriously, a lot of what we have to do is complete rubbish. I mean, it doesn't change. Equality and diversity doesn't change from year to year.
This is an interesting one, Carol. You say that patients, because this will be controversial within the NHS, I completely agree with it, but you say patients need to be treated like customers.
Exactly. The problem we've got is at the moment they're not. They're a nuisance within the system. The management have come through the NHS training programme. They're completely blindsided by consumerism. We need people from Wetherspoons, Ryanair, these sort of successful consumer-based, customer-focused industries that can come forward and actually change things. It's hospitality. Hotels and hospitals have the same sort of thing. You'd much rather be in a hotel than a hospital, obviously. And I think what we've got to do is get the mentality of a hotel into a hospital. So change the management.
And the fifth point, Carol, that you think could save the NHS within 100 days, invest in decent IT which can be accessed by patients and also allow GPs to access diagnostic scans.
Absolutely. The IT is so primitive. I've been a consultant a long time, and the computer on the desk hasn't really changed much. You can access blood counts, you can now look at X-rays and so on the computer, but underneath that, there's not much on it. There's no electronic medical record except local systems. We've got to change that, and patients have to interact with it. It's beginning, it is coming, but it's painfully slow, and that would transform things. It would allow you to predict where the action is needed, predict when someone comes into hospital, how you're going to get them out of hospital as fast as possible. This won't cost more money. It doesn't need doubling the budget as Tony Blair did 20 years ago. It needs a much more sensible policy, and hopefully the current minister, the new minister, will do just that.
Carol Sikora, I hope Liz Truss is listening. Our positive professor, thank you. Carol will speak again next week. But coming up, with Boris Johnson already odds on to replace Liz Truss as the next Conservative leader, have you got your head around that one? Should the outgoing PM stage a comeback or accept his frontline political career is over? That's our big debate in the Media Buzz at 10. We'll also celebrate some of Boris's most bonkers bits as he prepares to leave Downing Street for the final time as PM tomorrow morning. But next, as Liz Truss is accused of snubbing a handshake with Rishi Sunak after she was declared winner, how can the party unite behind her after such a divisive campaign? The Conservative media's leading ladies, Madeline Grant and Olivia Utley, return on that in just 2 minutes' time.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
on radio and online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
A first look at tomorrow's historic newspaper front pages coming up. But first, Liz Truss was accused of snubbing a handshake with Rishi Sunak this afternoon as she was declared the winner of their fiercely contested leadership contest to become the next Prime Minister. Look.
Come up on stage.
So that snub marked the end of what's, let's be honest, been an incredibly divisive campaign that saw two of the country's leading Tories turn on each other in a bitter blue-on-blue bloodbath. So can the party put that behind them now and come back together to back Truss, or is that just a pipe dream? To analyse, I'm joined by two of the Conservative media's leading ladies, the Daily Telegraph's Madeline Grant and Olivia Utley. Madeline, wow, I mean, should she have shook his hand to try and say, I'm moving on, at least in public? Or was it actually better for her to be honest and say, look, I'm angry, I don't agree with what you've said during the campaign, you're not going to be in my cabinet, and things aren't great?
I don't know. I think it's entirely possible that she just got a bit overexcited with the moment and just went straight up on the stage. I mean, she did pay tribute to him in her speech. And tried to make some plea for party unity. And in fact, that's what a lot of the Tory grandees and Rishi Sunak have been saying. Of course, as you said, these are just words after what has been on occasion quite a toxic campaign, but I think at least on the surface they are now reiterating that call for togetherness. Whether they can actually achieve that is a different story.
Olivia Utley, do you think they can? Because Rishi Sunak has again dismissed speculation tonight that he might be in a Liz Truss cabinet. Doesn't look like that's going to happen, does it?
It doesn't look like it's going to happen. It sounds to me as though Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak never got on particularly well in Boris Johnson's cabinet. And I think having seen them both over the last few months, we can sort of see how they're quite different personalities. But actually, on the whole, I would say this leadership campaign hasn't been as divisive as some of them have been. It has very much been about the economy, and they feel differently about how to get us out of this cost of living crisis. And they both had serious conservative solutions. I tended to favour what Liz Truss said more than Rishi Sunak, but I could understand where he was coming from. And I think that eventually they will make up. And to me, I do agree with Maddie. I can totally imagine accidentally ignoring someone's handshake in the excitement of becoming Prime Minister and then thinking afterwards, oh, how could I have done that? How stupid of me. I think it's unlikely it was a deliberate snub.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, actually. But Madeleine, you've got to admit a lot of the briefing over the course of the campaign has been toxic. You know, we've had folk like Dominic Raab sent out as sort of Tory kamikaze pilots on Rishi's behalf to completely take Liz Truss's plan to task, and also the prospect of her as Prime Minister being electoral suicide.
Yeah, exactly. And there's been a lot of hostile briefing to newspapers as well. And on the whole, the hustings have been a bit more jolly, but they have been kind of through different channels taking chunks out of each other. But I always think the bigger problem during this prolonged leadership race was simply that it was, I mean, part of my job was to follow many of these hustings. And so you grew used to the fact that they are fabulously repetitive, and they tell the same stories, the same anecdotes, often word for word. And I think that against the backdrop of everything that is happening in the country at the moment, this began to look like, I don't know, quite a decadent sort of a race. It seemed to go on for far too long. And in the meantime, while the Conservative Party is having this internal battle with itself, the country is crying out for direction and guidance through, one of the most difficult periods in our country's history for decades.
Olivia Utley, I think it was important that both candidates were tested, but Madeleine's right, isn't she? This dragged on far too long, given the very serious political climate that we're in and the vacuum of leadership.
I think it did, and I think that indulgent is exactly the word for it. I don't really blame Rishi Sunak for that. I think that there was such a fear after what happened with Theresa May, where she was crowned as Prime Minister and she wasn't tested in front of the electorate, and it turns out she was absolutely awful in front of the electorate. People were really worried about that happening again. And from what I've heard, I think actually Rishi Sunak was told that he wasn't allowed to bow out. So I don't really think it was his fault. But I agree that it went on for far too long. And it sounds as though the vast majority of Tory party members voted in the first week or so. So just watching them come out and having to say the same things over and over again. And I feel like poor Liz Truss has had to sort of she was kept coming up with more and more things, and it felt a little bit like she was just trying to fill airspace by the end, and now she's tied herself,
including dumping the speed limit, which I think she will regret. So actually, I want you guys to pick your most bonkers moment of this campaign, because there have been the odd moment of levity. Madeleine, what tickled your fancy over the past 6 weeks?
Well, I think I'm going to rule out almost everything that happened during any of the actual hustings, because, as I say, I could give you a rendition. I'm not going to inflict that on your viewers. But for me, it was when Rishi Sunak reached the final two. Even though he was the overwhelming favourite with MPs, he released this hilarious, slightly Alan Partridge-esque video in which he thanked his campaign team, and he uses quite.
Yes. We have to look at this. We have to look at this. Let's remind ourselves. I loved it.
Guys, we totally smashed it. Well done. Right. If you think back 3-4 weeks ago, I was totally written out of this thing, right? I was totally written out. They thought this couldn't be done. They thought I'd have no place in it. But because all of you showed up and you showed up on day one, we made this happen.
Madeline, I love that you said that, Farrell. Olivia, what was your most bonkers campaign moment?
Well, Liz Truss is... Bless her. She's not blessed with the most amazingly slick sense of style, which I actually quite like about her. Rishi Sunak, apart from that, was generally very, very polished. And Liz Truss takes a bit of a kick out of knowing that she's not a great media performer. But there was this one moment where she lost the door to the room that she was doing her launch in.
Let's look at this. Let's look at this.
How?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for the questions. Very good to see you.
No, it wasn't the most assured launch. Well, look, I'm going to be a little bit biased with mine, but of course it was this great moment at the GB News hustings.
Piece that you contributed to back in 2019, Reform, about budget considerations, has caused...
I think that was 2009.
2009.
Alistair.
I do beg your pardon. It is... it's a typo. It has caused a bit of a stir.
I always thought you had high quality standards at GB News, but
we do.
It's not the BBC. You know, you actually get your facts right.
Ms. Truss, enough already.
Oh, it's the cackle at the end. I love it. Well, look, Madeline Grant, Olivia Utley, the Daily Telegraph's conservative media leading ladies. It has been a pleasure following this campaign with you, but I am glad we're at the finish line. Thank you both. It's 10 p.m. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, Liz Truss is just hours away from becoming our third female Prime Minister, having defeated Rishi Sunak after a bitter and toxic Conservative leadership contest. But is the leadership drama really over? Or should Truss actually be worried about the departing Prime Minister? Yes, rumours of a Boris Johnson comeback are growing louder by the day, even as his critics argue he's finished. Our superstar panel are going to debate what Boris does next. Tonight, I'm joined by Daily Telegraph Associate Editor Christopher Hope, broadcaster and journalist Nina Mishkov, and former Brexit Party MEP Belinda de Lucy. Plus, she's the hard-hitting Education Minister who told rent-a-mob protesters exactly what she thought with this one-finger salute. Truss backer Andrea Jenkyns joins me live from Westminster at 10:20 for her thoughts on the new Tory leader's own run-in with abusive haters today. And as Priti Patel has tonight resigned as Home Secretary, just what's the answer to the worsening Channel migrant crisis? Star Daily Mail columnist Stephen Glover tables a radical new plan with me, including sending asylum seekers offshore to British-owned islands. He's uncancelled at 10:40. Brace yourself, Briton.
And there I was the girl from Suits. And I was invited to pull up a seat at the table.
Oh yes, the whining Montecito troublemaker and her emasculated husband bid to keep themselves relevant in Manchester tonight with that speech that none of us really want to have to listen to. But is their UK jaunt just an attempt to steal attention from our new Prime Minister? And bye-bye, Boris. Moments like that, the reason you'll miss the swashbuckling Prime Minister. Don't miss all of that in our Media Buzz at 10:30. Plus, just why has winning a prize to get your electricity bill paid caused such a national debate?
Energy bill!
Oh my God, thank you.
We're paying your energy bill for 4 months.
So that Philip Schofield segment has been called beyond bleak and compared to the dystopian TV series Black Mirror, but are we just overreacting? I'll reveal more on that next. And will comedian Joe Lycett's antics on the BBC's new political show make him tonight's Union Jackass?
Thank you so much for coming in, and whatever happens, do come back. Well, I was going to say, going for some reaction from our panel, because listening to that interview at the desk and seeming to applaud Joe Lycett, the comedian.
Oh, he's got to be a strong contender. I'll crown my GBUJ before the hour is out, so do stay up with us. You'll also get a first look at tomorrow's historic newspaper front pages the moment they drop. But before all of that, the news headlines at 10 with Polly Middlehurst.
Dan, thank you. Good evening to you. Our top story tonight, the Conservative Party has selected Liz Truss as its new leader, meaning she'll become the UK's next Prime Minister. Ms Truss beat her rival, Rishi Sunak, by a 57% majority vote of Tory MPs. She's Britain's 56th and third female Prime Minister, and the Queen is scheduled to formally appoint her as such at Balmoral Castle tomorrow. In a speech following her victory, Liz Truss said it was an honour to be elected, and she promised to deliver on energy and the NHS.
It's an honour to be elected as leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party. I will deliver a bold plan to cut taxes and grow our economy. I will deliver on the energy crisis, dealing with people's energy bills, but also dealing with the long-term issues we have on energy supply.
Well, as the fallout becomes apparent from that new appointment, Priti Patel has resigned as Home Secretary. In a letter to Boris Johnson, she said she was proud to have served in his cabinet and that she would stay in position until Liz Truss appoints a replacement. Ms Patel has said she'll also continue to work from the backbenches. Well, in central London today, dozens of people protested against the government's decision to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. Demonstrators chanted, "Refugees are welcome here," outside the Royal Courts of Justice as a challenge was mounted inside the building. The High Court heard Rwanda was an authoritarian state that tortured and murdered those it considered to be its opponents, whilst the Home Office said the country was safe and secure. Well, that comes as more than 2,000 people crossed the English Channel over the weekend. GB News found almost 27,500 people were intercepted so far this year. That's just short of the 28,500 people who made the same journey over the whole of last year. And the two suspects in a stabbing rampage in Canada are still on the run, but police say they now have enough evidence to charge them both with murder. Damien and Miles Sanderson are accused of killing 10 people and injuring 18 others yesterday. Police say they attacked people in the Canadian province of Saskatchewan at 13 separate locations. The country's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, says he's giving local authorities the federal government's full support in tracking them down. And as you've been hearing, the Duchess of Sussex has appeared on stage at a global summit for young leaders tonight, saying it's nice to be back in the UK. Meghan Markle, accompanied by her husband, Prince Harry, gave a keynote speech at the opening ceremony of One Young World in Manchester, an event which brings together 2,000 young leaders from almost 200 countries from across the world. It's her first address in the UK since quitting as a working royal more than 2 years ago.
The important work can't wait for tomorrow. And this week, the world is watching as you cement your place in history by showcasing the good that you are doing today, in the present moment, as we embrace the moment of now to create a better tomorrow.
Meghan Markle speaking in Manchester tonight. You're up to date then on TV, online and on DAB+ radio. You're with GB News tonight. Let's get to part 2 of Dan Wootton tonight.
Now it's time for tomorrow's news tonight in our Media Buzz. The first front pages are in. On the Metro, incoming Prime Minister Liz Truss promises to deliver after winning the Tory leadership race. Also on that front page, a picture of Harry and Meghan arriving in Manchester today by train. I've got a lot more to say on that later in the show. The Eye leads on the news that Liz Truss is reportedly drawing up plans with her likely new Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, to lock gas and energy bills at the current £1,971 average until the end of January. Our superstar panel here now. Tonight, Associate Editor of the Daily Telegraph, Christopher Hope, the broadcaster and journalist Nina Mishkov, and the former MEP, campaigner and political commentator Belinda de Lucy. Now, the removal men might have just sealed their last box at number 10, but a cohort of Tory MPs are already ramping up the plotting to return Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. The Sunday Mirror revealed at the weekend that 12 Tory MPs are planning to slap incoming PM Liz Truss with letters of no confidence as early as this week, and they want a leadership vote by Christmas. Now, despite the ongoing Privileges Committee inquiry, they firmly believe they need Boris back at the helm. And the betting markets actually seem to agree, with Bojo now the odds-on favourite to succeed Truss as next Conservative leader as he races ahead at the bookies. I know, I can't believe it either. Rumours of a Boris comeback before the next election have been swirling for weeks now, and his loyal former aide, Eddie Lister, is the latest to add fuel to the fire.
I would never say never about anything to do with Boris Johnson. And when people say, well, will he ever come back? I would say, well, maybe. He is a very formidable operator. He is somebody who has proved and been able to surprise people time after time.
There you go. The outgoing PM, of course, dodged questions about his future when quizzed about it last week, and tweeting today, he added even more ambiguity by congratulating Truss, but very much extolling the virtues of his premiership, writing, "I have been proud to serve as leader of the Conservative Party for the last 3 years, winning the biggest majority for decades, getting Brexit done, overseeing the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe, and giving vital support to Ukraine." Then in the second tweet, it took the second tweet before he said, "Congratulations to Liz Truss on her decisive win. I know she has the right plan to tackle the cost of living crisis, unite our party and continue the great work of uniting and levelling up our country. Now is the time for all Conservatives to get behind her 100%. Christopher Hope, I mean, I actually spoke to someone last week who had a very long lunch recently with Boris Johnson, and let's just say, the fires are still burning within him. He wants to make a lot of money in the short term, but in the medium term, he hasn't ruled out a political comeback, has he?
His last words at this Matchbox were "Hasta la vista, baby," which we all know from Terminator films, when that means "I'll be back," or whatever the words that you mean from Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he has no intention. He didn't want to go. He is forced out by 61, 62 ministers, forced the pace, got him out. Barely a third of MPs want the current PM to be there, looking at the numbers with all the voting rounds. And he is going to lick his wounds, write his books, do a speech, put some more hay in the loft, that means money in his world, and then come back at some point in the future. No question wants a future. The question is, when will he time it? Because it's likely that Liz Truss goes through the next election. If she loses, because she'll only resign if she loses, then will he be the leader in opposition? That's unlikely. So therefore, you bring it forward. Will there be a move against Liz Truss before Christmas, like the Sunday Mirror said there? 10 MPs might be letters of no confidence in, and see where that goes, because it all starts again with Graham Brady.
But Linda de Lucy, he couldn't do that to Liz Truss, could he? Surely not.
Oh, I'm not sure about that. I think if Liz Truss messes up, he'll be licking his chops and imagining the hero's welcome like Charles II did on his horse when Cromwell chopped his dad's head off, and they're all going, "Oh, we're sorry, please come back." I think he's already imagined Westminster doing that, as well as Parliamentary Party doing that if everything goes wrong, because he is the only one that can get him that stonking majority. And to be fair to Liz Truss, she has got a really hard task ahead of her. You know, I don't even blame her if things don't go well for Liz Truss, but who knows? Boris is ambitious, and he has a target, and that is to regain his throne and put the crown back on his head.
Nina Mishkov, I'm delighted to see you, but I do have to give you a little bit of a scolding first up, because when Belinda de Lucy said, "If Truss makes a mistake," and you shook your head and said,
"Absolutely."
When? Now, surely you will back my clarion call for us all to get behind Liz Truss as Prime Minister for the sake of this country.
For the sake of this country, we need a general election and this mob out. The thing is, she's supposed to bring the Tory party together. Her first move when she rose from her seat, when she was announced, she swept past Rishi Sunak. Her first move, which should have been to shake him by the hand briefly, not by the throat, but not to ignore him, to shake his hand and go up and that should have been her first instinct.
Christopher, you don't think it was deliberate?
No, it's not. She's socially awkward. She's a bit like this.
She's too stupid to do it. She's
not stupid.
Not politically.
She went to Oxford, Nina.
Oh, so I know, but we're talking her brain, her political brain, versus Rishi Sunak.
But Nina, in fairness, though, she is also incredibly politically smart because she has come through this contest against all odds to beat the political naysayers, to beat the Tory party MPs, to beat the establishment. She has proven them all wrong, so she can't be stupid, Nina. I think she's actually a very smart woman.
She's a very smart woman, but not smart enough. When you watch her in debate, and that's why she wouldn't go on Andrew Marr's show, because she's not quick enough. When you watch Rishi Sunak, I don't want either of them to be Prime Minister. I want somebody else to be Prime Minister. But, Rishi Sunak, he's there. She's...
Well, what about Boris?
Well, what
do you make of this Boris comeback?
I am the sort of person who, and there's this business about deliver. She sounds like an Amazon driver, for Christ's sake. Deliver. It's idiotic.
What about Boris coming back?
Boris, I mean, of course he wants to come back. That's his whole idea, and this whole thing has been set up for him to come back.
Do you think that's true, Christopher? Because you've been following this very closely.
Come out. I remember reading. So I was going to I was going to say that when he supposedly resigned, although there wasn't much of he hasn't actually really resigned. He was just given a lovely long holiday at Chequers and 2 holidays in Greece and a lovely flight and a jet fighter and so he could make.
Christopher Hope. No one knows the Conservative Party better than you, and the machinations.
He's angry.
Is what Nina's saying true? Has this all just been set up for Boris to make a comeback?
No, I think the MPs don't. They want him gone. They are pretty unforgiving bunch. They see risk in the way
they don't want him back. You mean?
Yeah, to back. And they read a lot of Twitter. They're worrying about how people are seeing him. They ignored, I think, lots of the base, which we speak for at the Telegraph, and that's why we wrote a lot about this campaign to try and get Boris' name onto the.
Man.
Yeah, he used to be our man. He's the Tory party's man, and now he's
the establishment.
And he'll be Edward Heath on steroids. I think if you remember Edward Heath back in the day when he became this presence.
Gordon Brown is the same grumpy old bison, I mean.
Oh, come on. This is no Gordon Brown, Nina. Yeah. No one was interested to read Gordon Brown's book. No one was interested to go and watch a Gordon Brown speech. Even you will pay a lot of money to read Boris Johnson's book or to see him speak, Nina.
I couldn't care less. I was comparing him in terms of grumpiness and sulking. Edward Heath, Gordon Brown, sulk. But to be fair to Gordon Brown, he's come back and he's doing marvellous things.
After a period of time.
I think Liz Truss is going to surprise everyone because the pressure is on her shoulders so hard. She's also got a great track record. The trade deal, 63 of them. She did, and she's great diplomatically. She's loved in Eastern Europe. She stood up. She stood up to Putin when Europe submitted.
Said, is Macron friend or foe?
God.
And she said,
thank goodness she said that.
No,
I'm with you.
I'm sorry,
I'm with you, Belinda.
A Prime Minister that's not afraid.
You may want it down, but you
what she
and
said
putting
about
the
Sturgeon.
Good.
No, listen. She is supposed to be the Conservative and Unionist party, and yet she has rubbished Sturgeon.
Good.
Just
Tories say good.
Because they were voted in by the people in the countries which they serve.
Sturgeon wants to rubbish our great union. What's so funny is all of the things that you're saying are bad points about Liz Truss. I think most people are going to say is good. But look, stand by, because during the pandemic, it often felt like we were living in a dystopian hellscape movie. And it looks like the cost of lockdown crisis might just be the sequel. As hard-up folks struggle with skyrocketing prices and energy bills, this new competition on ITV's this morning has bitterly divided the British public today. Watch.
OK, here we go. So we'll pay your energy bills, got £1,000 as well. So this is energy bills, I think, for 4 months if it stops on that.
Nice.
So how are your energy bills? Are you a bit worried about it all?
Oh, major.
Yeah.
Are you?
I've got one of these prepayment meters and it's absolutely murder.
Oh, God.
Right, well, let's hope it lands on one of those then.
Whatever, you're going to win some money, so don't worry. Here we go.
One way or t'other. Here we go. Round and round it goes. Where it stops, nobody knows. £1,000 or energy bill. £1,000 or energy bill. It is going to be... It's your energy bill.
Oh, my God, thank you.
We're paying your energy bill for 4 months.
Oh, fantastic.
No worries.
Oh, what a relief. Thank you very much.
Listen, well done.
Now, comparing it to the bleak Orwellian TV series Black Mirror, many furious viewers have slammed it as grotesquely tone-deaf, while others have merely pointed out that it's simply the sad state of affairs we're in. One thing that isn't up for debate, however, is the mammoth task on energy security facing Liz Truss as she enters number 10. Christopher Hope, Nina Mishkov, Belinda Lucy, do stand by, because coming up, by attending a huge event in Manchester tonight, are Harry and Meghan just trying to steal the attention from our new Prime Minister? We'll debate that with the superstar panel in the Media Buzz. But next, she's the hard-hitting education minister who told rent-a-mob protesters exactly what she thought of them with a bit of a one-fingered salute. Truss backer Andrea Jenkyns joins me live from Westminster for her thoughts on the new Tory leader's own run-in with abusive haters today.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
to each and every one of you
for helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
on radio and online.
We're proud to be
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
More of tomorrow's historic new Prime Minister front pages coming up next. But after becoming Tory leader, earlier Liz Truss was booed by a gaggle of Perma victim lefties as she entered Conservative Party headquarters in London. Watch. These shouty, crusty critics who I think should just get a haircut and get a real job are constantly disruptive and often abusive. So do the Tories need to take a more robust approach in dealing with them? Well, Higher Education Minister Andrea Jenkyns, who threw her support behind Truss when Patel decided not to run, is no stranger to the rent-a-mobs who hound politicians. She sparked controversy earlier this year with this one-fingered salute to booing Boris protesters outside Downing Street. And I'm delighted to say Andrea joins me now live from College Green in Westminster. Andrea, look, you said you should have shown more composure after that incident, but these people are never going to vote Conservative or even engage in debate. And there they were, taunting Liz Truss today, just hours after she's become Prime Minister. What did you make of it?
One more short question.
Oh, completely agree with you, Dan. I mean, let me give you just some context to, before I showed them the finger. For 8 years I've had sort of, abuse from the left. I've had 8 death threats. I had 2 this year already, which have got ongoing police investigations. And some of those Remainer activists who was always outside Parliament have even been trolling me when my little one was in a pram, even when last year, a week after Sir David got murdered, shouting out when my child was with me. And when I got to Downing Street and I saw them playing the Bye Bye Boris song, screaming, and I just thought, do you know something? You've got what you want now. Can't you leave Boris alone? So I lost my composure, but that is the context. I'd had enough of the abuse and the vitriol. I mean, we've seen what Boris has been through. So clearly the change in their song now from Bye Bye Boris to Bye Bye Liz, which I just think, to me, it's absolutely appalling behaviour of the left.
No, indeed, and I never criticised you for it at the time. I actually thought it was a great moment, and many believe that actually maybe you should be promoted as a result. But look, it does feel like there is already this attempt by the left in this country, and particularly, Andrea, much of the media, especially the BBC, to bring down and talk down Liz Truss before she's even entered number 10 Downing Street. Do you believe, like I do, that these people have become emboldened because they feel like they succeeded in getting rid of Boris Johnson?
Yes. I think you're probably right, Dan. And, these people, they have a real hatred. I mean, as I walked out today, the QE2, there was a woman, she must have been in her late 70s, saying, "I hate you." And I'm like, for God's sake, I don't even know who you are. And, you expect, more composure from somebody, a mature lady. And I just think that anybody who's true conservative, sort of my wing of the party, who are real believers in our country, these lefty troll people, they hate you and they want to talk you down. And, I think that, with Liz, she's coming out with so many true conservative policies and displaying true conservative values. So she will have a fight on her hand with the left. But, bring it on. She's a strong, steely lady and she can take them on.
Do you think it was inappropriate for the BBC to have the left-wing comedian Joe Lycett as their feature star panellist on the first episode of Laura Kuenssberg's new TV show on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, look at the last Have I Got News For You, the way they attacked Boris. I mean, I was part of the Defund the BBC campaign, and, why are taxpayers paying this money for something so biased? If they want to be biased, they should be privately funded.
I'm totally with you there. Now, look, you did want Priti Patel to be Prime Minister. Obviously, she didn't throw her hat in the end to compete. How disappointed are you to see that she has tendered her resignation as Home Secretary tonight?
Look, Priti is wonderful. I mean, she's got such another side, and I hope that people get to see this. I mean, my son, who's 5 now, his birthday is the same day as Priti. She never forgets his birthday. She's got a real motherly side, and I've got huge respect for Priti. And I know she had a real fight with the civil servants in the department, and I'm sure that story will be told one day. And I respect Priti, and I'm sure that whatever she does next, she'll make a success of. But I'm sure she'll be back in the future. But I mean, I think with Liz, we all need to get behind her. I mean, look at some of the policies she's bringing out. It's been real music to my ears. I mean, she's going to scrap the national insurance increase, lower corporation tax, and which is really music to my ears, is pause these green levies, which goes down really well in my constituency, and it's true to my heart. These are true things that we should be doing going forward, and we are going to be. So I'm quite excited about the future now, actually.
You're, of course, Higher Education Minister. Have you had any discussions about your role?
No, I haven't. I mean, that's the gift of our new Prime Minister, and I trust in her decisions. Whatever she decides to do, I'm sure she'll make the right choice with selecting her cabinet and all the rest of the ministers.
So this must be, I mean, look, I know you're thinking about the good of the party, but just on a human level, Andrea, this must be a difficult 48 hours, because presumably you're waiting for the phone call to either say, good news, you've been promoted, come in, or bad news, you're about to be sacked.
No, I mean, I'm a very pragmatic person. Whatever life throws at me, you know, I'll take it in my stride. That's my nature. But I'm actually proud that, you know, we've got Liz, in all honesty. You know, I mean, I've known Liz since 2013, since I was a Conservative Policy Forum East Midlands chairman and Eastern Region when I did some events in the constituency. When I got selected to fight Ed Balls, she was up there immediately doing my first fundraiser for me. She even came up in this year's local elections to campaign for the local elections. And don't forget that Liz has been a party activist, you know, right since her early 20s. She's been association level exec at local associations, and she's been a councillor. So, you know, Liz gets the party, and I think if anybody can unite the party, it's going to be Liz, because she gets it. But no, I'm actually looking forward to the next few weeks and the next few days to hear what policies are going to be there to, you know, support the British people, because let's face it, you know, she's inherited a difficult time. You know, Boris, you know, I'm a big fan of Boris, and he had so much on his plate, what he had to deal with Brexit, and also the pandemic, and then on top of that, the Ukraine, and then now we've got the rising energy costs. So Liz has got a lot to deal with, but I think because she's the longest serving cabinet minister, if anyone can do it, she can do it.
Finally, Andrea, some breaking news tonight. The Mail reporting that the Culture Secretary, Nadine Dorries, will resign ahead of the reshuffle tomorrow as Culture Secretary. She wants to go to the Lords. It looks like this will trigger a by-election. Like you, I believe the BBC should be defunded. She was taking the fight to the BBC. This is going to be a critical post for Liz Truss to fill, isn't it?
Oh, completely. Oh, completely. And I thought Nadine did a fabulous job. I was fully behind her and what she was doing, and completely agree. You know, this is a real fight back. I mean, I'm really proud of what GBNews does. You know, I mean, there's so many left-wing biased news outlets that they're, you know, as a Tory MP, you don't actually want to go on the BBC. You don't want to do these other shows. So I think you need somebody who's really strong, strident, who isn't afraid to stand up and put up a fight. So, but I'm sure Liz will choose well whoever she chooses.
Hi, Education Minister Andrea Jenkyns. Great to talk, and good luck when you find out if you keep your job or get another one the next couple of days. I think we certainly need you in government. Now, coming up in Uncancelled, as Priti Patel resigns as Home Secretary, how can her hotly tipped replacement Suella Braverman defuse the ticking time bomb that is the Channel migrant crisis? Star Daily Mail columnist Stephen Glover lays out his bold island plan in Uncancelled. But first, by attending a huge event in Manchester today, are Harry and Meghan trying to steal the attention from our new Prime Minister? I'll debate that with my superstar panel. Plus, you're going to hear her cringe-worthy speech, just a small part of it, straight after the break.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
for helping our great nation.
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
On radio and online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Let's return to tomorrow's News Tonight now in our Media Buzz. More historic front pages have just been delivered, and while their take on Liz Truss entry number 10, let's say it's different. True to form, the Daily Mirror haven't missed an opportunity to take a swipe at the Conservatives with the headline, Same Old Tories. The left-wing publication writes that for 12 years, Conservative Prime Ministers have wrecked the economy, trashed our public services and left millions worse off, and now we've got another one. The editor seems to have let their son do some photoshopping work there as well. The Guardian asks if Liz Truss can avert the cost of living crisis that threatens to wreck Britain's economy and destroy livelihoods. The Daily Telegraph reveals energy bills will be frozen until 2024, when the next general election is expected under plans being considered by Truss. A package of support for bills will be revealed as early as Thursday, followed by a formal announcement of tax cuts and a plan to clear the NHS backlog. I was interested by this story as well. Allies of Penny Mordaunt urging Liz Truss to appoint her former leadership rival as Deputy Prime Minister. Straight to a business lead in The Times, repeating the report by The Telegraph, Liz Truss is expected to freeze energy bills for every household, and business as one of her first acts as our new PM to avert the possibility of mass bankruptcies. The Sun also follows the news that Liz is putting her foot on the gas and plans to freeze energy bills. And red alert, Meg's back. We'll dive into the return of the Duke and Duchess of Woke in just one moment. The Daily Express leads with Truss's triumph. Put faith in Truss to deliver for Britain. Truss made a tribute to her friend Boris Johnson when she was elected as leader of the Tory party today. And the Daily Mail leads with a rallying cry for Liz Truss to step forward and to deliver her, quote, shock and awe strategy on energy bills, tax and the NHS to stamp her mark on Britain. The paper says no PM since Maggie has faced tougher conditions than Truss, but they declare she will cometh the hour, cometh the woman. And an irreverent, shall we say, tribute, maybe not, to Boris in the Daily Star with the headline, well, that was a bizarre 1,139-day fever dream, wasn't it? My superstar panel return now. Associate Editor at the Daily Telegraph, Christopher Hope, the broadcaster and journalist Nina Mishkov, and the former Brexit Party MEP, campaigner and political campaigner Belinda de Lucy. The Duchess of Woke and shadow of her husband, Prince Harry, are back on our shores yet again, just days after her latest scathing attack on this country. Victim-in-chief Meghan dropped another barrel of easily provable lies during her US magazine interview last week, which, by the way, coincided grimly with the 25th anniversary of Princess Diana's death. But shameless and buoyed by yet more attention, she returned to Blighty to give a gender equality speech at the One Young World Summit in Manchester tonight. It was cringeworthy stuff, but just bear with me for a few seconds. Watch.
Have any of you today so far had that feeling, that pinch me moment where you just go, how am I here? Oh, it's a lot. And at that dinner, there were about 20 to 30 of us for the counselors. And there I was the girl from Suits. And I was invited to pull up a seat at the table. I was so overwhelmed by this experience. I think I even saved my little paper place card that said my name on it. Just proof that I was there, and proof that I belonged. They saw in me, just as I see in you, the present and the future.
Oh, goodness me. The unwanted Meghan and Harry, who stayed at Frogmore Cottage last night, snubbed meeting William and Kate, who were less than half a mile away in the grounds of Windsor Great Park. They also reportedly spurned a request to meet up with Prince Charles, instead focusing on their shameless self-promotion tour. But the question begs, if Harry and Meghan hate this country so much, why are they here at all? On a day when Britain learned the identity of its new leader, it appears the Montecito Monos are bidding to steal the limelight from our incoming PM and bolster their brand value. Now, Meghan certainly has form for it. Just ask Princess Eugenie how she felt when Meghan announced she was pregnant on her wedding day. So, as our wonderful, hardworking Queen tries to muster the strength to swear in the new Prime Minister in Balmoral tomorrow, our third female Prime Minister, no less, Meghan will continue using the gender and race cards to promote her pathetic podcast. And Belinda's Lucy, I find this so crass, so revolting, actually, that they've flown in on the back of all of that publicity which stole the attention from Princess Diana's death anniversary to now steal the thunder from the Queen and the Prime Minister.
I really don't want to be mean about Harry and Meghan, but they make it so hard. They are force-feeding us like French foie gras ducks. They're self-promoting gruel, and we can't get away from them. They're just everywhere. And unfortunately for them, I think they've had too much therapy. They're not the sharpest crayons in the box. And they're so consumed with themselves. There's no room in their head for anyone else. So they lack self-awareness. So I actually don't think they understand why the Brits dislike them. They don't understand why they're being hypocrites when they produce 26 times the amount of carbon footprint than the average Brit does. You know, they don't understand the hypocrisy. I just don't think they're connected to the real world. They think they're prince and princess and they're floating around being Saint Meghan and Saint Harry. And I think they've lost the plot a little. I feel sorry for them, to be honest.
I mean, Christopher Hope, it is pretty awful, isn't it, given we know the Queen is battling very ill health at the moment. We know their dad, he's not a perfect man. You know, I criticise Prince Charles, but he funded their move to America. Often we forget that. And we know that William and Kate used to be so close to Prince Harry. And here they are in the UK, to feather their own nest, to film content for their Netflix show. They are apparently not going to see one member of their family.
Well,
something's up there.
It's really sad, but families we all have families and things happen, and it's really sad, and we don't know quite all the detail, but we know never enough of it. What I find deeply ironic is that their schedule this week, this One World Conference in Manchester, off to, I think, Germany for the Invictus Games, another charity event this week, is a royal programme. Yeah. They're doing everything they tried to avoid doing when they left this country. So they're going back into the whole schedule they rejected because it was too onerous. And in the meantime,
I don't think they rejected it because it was too onerous. That was not why they rejected it.
Well,
I mean, come on.
OK, well, it wasn't. Yeah, fair enough. It wasn't onerous, but they were concerned about.
No, but the point is, they turned their back on the royal family, Christopher, and all of a sudden they are following the playbook of the royal family.
They were forced out.
No, they weren't.
And the reason they were...
they weren't. I broke the story of Meg's that they were not forced out, believe me.
The reason they were forced out was because Harry had always been more popular with the public than Will. Went the Queen.
Not anymore.
No, well, the Queen. Well, the Daily Mail and various other publications have done a very good job. And so
you can't blame the press, Nina.
Well, yeah, I can certainly blame. We watched the Oprah.
Sorry, it's the Daily Mail's fault that Prince Harry is no longer popular. That has to be the most ridiculous thing you've ever said. I write for the DailyMail.com. That is a joke.
No, it's not.
We were incredibly supportive of Harry and Meghan when they first came to this country.
When Kate and Will were on their own, they were fine. When they were with Harry, they were fine. Then Harry was more popular. Right, when Meghan came in, Harry and Meghan were more popular than Will and Kate. So they had to be...
That was OK?
They had to be got rid of because they were stealing...
Nina, who got rid of them? What are you talking about?
Did. The palace did. And honestly...
Christopher's got his head in his hands here.
The axing job that the Daily Mail did on Meghan was unbelievable.
Meghan lied on live TV. She lied. She said she was married 3 days.
Multiple times she lied.
But she felt that she was married.
OK, so it's just about what she feels. Just like she feels, by the way, Nina, that she's an only child, despite the fact that she has a half-brother and a half-sister. This is delusion, Nina. It is delusional.
It is not delusion. It is absolutely not delusion. And you said that they're trying to steal our political thunder or Liz Truss's thunder. The event that they've that they've come in to do tonight was fixed months ago. It hadn't, you know, this election has...
OK, what about the release of the podcast the day before the 25th anniversary of Princess Diana's death? How crass was that? How can you defend that?
No, of course you... How can that cut across the anniversary? She's allowed to have her own podcast and say her own thing as a woman. She has her own views. We may not like them.
She didn't like it, did she? Did you guys listen when Mariah Carey called her a diva? She was so mad, and I thought, the truth hurts, love. The truth hurts, love.
The thing is, to someone like Mariah Carey or an opera singer, a diva is a compliment, but most of the rest of us... It is.
I know.
But most of the rest of us don't understand it. So if you called me a diva, I'd be very cross. So she's allowed to be cross. Okay. You know, the thing is, you've all bought into what you've been fed.
No, I don't think she's proving yourself.
Nina, you can't say that to me. You cannot say that to me. I covered this couple close up.
Yes.
I spoke to everyone who worked with them. I spoke to their family members. I spoke to their friends. And by the way, I was incredibly supportive of this couple to begin with, so I followed the fact.
Do you feel let down, then? You feel let down?
I feel let down.
I think the country feels let down.
I think they had an amazing opportunity.
We bought into them.
They had an amazing opportunity to be ambassadors for Britain. And you know what, Nina? All they want to be is ambassadors for themselves and for their own brand.
We should have embraced them.
We did.
Well, we did.
It was 3 or 4 journalists that didn't like, and they ran away.
Now, look, Nina, just to wind you up even more, Nina.
The best ambassadors we could have had in this country.
Nina, just to wind you up even more, I'm going to talk Boris Johnson again. And, you know, Boris was not your typical blonde bombshell, but he was certainly explosive, Eton educated with a man of the people charm. He turned London blue twice, smashed Commie Corbyn with a record election win, and got Brexit done. From zip-wire antics and dodgy dad dancing to rugby tackling a Japanese schoolboy. Tonight, because it is his last night as Prime Minister, at least for now, here are some of the outgoing PM's most bonkers moments.
Aim for the apex. Aim for the apex. Who hooted at me? Someone hooted at me.
It's going very, very well organised. What they do, get me a ladder. I believe that this Thursday can be our country's Independence Day.
He's never been to a food bomb.
Right, actually, I started...
Whoa. Hang on a second. What I want to do...
Take that back, old boy. Take it back.
Boris Johnson is elected as the leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party.
Hands up anybody who's been to Peppa Pig World. Hasta la vista, baby. Thank you.
Boris famously longed to be king of the world as a child, and when the world knows you fondly by just your first name, he arguably came close to that. So hasta la vista, Boris. Belinda de Lucy, Nina Mishkov, Christopher Hope, do stand by, because coming up, the crowning moment of the show as my superstar panel nominate for today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. But next, as Priti Patel resigns as Home Secretary, just what is the answer to the worsening Channel migrant crisis? Star Daily Mail columnist Stephen Glover tables a radical new plan with me tonight in Uncancelled. First, though, very quick look at what's coming up on another big political show tomorrow night. Coming up on Dan Wootton tonight, as Liz Truss gets to work as Prime Minister and forms her first cabinet, how can she reunite a divided Conservative Party and get Britain back on track? We'll bring you more expert political analysis from Westminster. Nigel Farage joins me live to explain why Truss must be the PM to finally take advantage of our endless Brexit opportunities and end the migrant crisis. Plus, Conservative peer Lord Daniel Moylan and political academic Matthew Goodwin join me live to analyse what Truss must do to succeed in number 10. And I'll break down another massive day in British politics and beyond with my superstar panel, the esteemed political journalist John Sargent, broadcaster Tonya Buxton, and author and journalist Rebecca Reid. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. But it's time now for Uncancelled. And this is where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. And breaking tonight, Priti Patel has resigned as Home Secretary in the wake of the worsening Channel migrant crisis. She was expected to be replaced by Attorney General Suella Braverman and Liz Truss's cabinet reshuffle tomorrow, but ultimately walked before she was pushed. Her resignation came as more than 1,000 illegal migrants landed on Britain's shores over the weekend to bring the yearly total to more than 26,000. We are now days away from breaking last year's all-time record of 28,500, and Truss vowed to make the Channel one of her top priorities in a newspaper interview yesterday. But as the Rwanda plan is grounded in legal wrangles, just how will Truss stem the flow, and does there need to be a bold new approach? Well, Star Daily Mail columnist Stephen Glover proposes sending migrants to a British-owned offshore island where asylum seekers would be sent and processed. And he says somewhere like St Helena or the Falklands could fit the bill. Stephen, great to have you here. Do you think Liz Truss needs to go for some sort of bombshell solution to what I believe is now a national emergency?
Well, she's going to have to come up with something pretty clever. And I thought at the time when Priti Patel produced her Rwandan plan back in April, I think, I thought then it wouldn't work because Rwanda is, let's face it, pretty close to being a dictatorship. And so there were bound to be legal challenges. I mean, oddly, paradoxically, today in the High Court, these legal challenges came to the boil with lots of groups who oppose sending asylum seekers to Rwanda, bringing a case against the government. Rwanda isn't going to fly as an idea. It just isn't going to work as an idea. I mean, it would be great if it would. And also, it does behove people who always say, let's find another way, to find another way. So I've come up with a solution, maybe not a solution, but an idea.
Yes, tell me about it. I love this plan.
Find some British island. We've got plenty of them. Could be the ones you mentioned, could be something a bit nearer home. Under the auspices of British officials, these asylum seekers could be processed, and we could decide which of them, and it would only be by minority, are genuine asylum seekers, and the rest can be sent back to where they came from. Why not? Because at the moment, the objection is that if you put it in the hands of Rwanda, Rwanda is not a very nice place. It's a kind of dictatorship. It's a long way away.
So it needs to be a British island. That's the critical difference.
It's got to be British soil somewhere, but not the Isle of Wight, not somewhere which is kind of a very nice place for asylum seekers to go to. Somewhere which is maybe a little bit damp and not the greatest fun in the world to go there, but still civilized. Send them there, and under the eye of British officials, we can decide which of them are bona fide asylum seekers and which of them are not.
I think that's a great idea. And the fact is, Stephen, for the Tories to have any hope of winning the next election under Liz Truss, this migrant crisis on the Channel has to be solved, right? They can't go to an election with 1,000 illegals arriving a day. It's just not tenable.
It's going to become a bigger and a bigger issue. And some people say, well, let's cooperate with the French. We can only do it with the French. But we've tried to cooperate with the French. We've tried again and again. The fact is the French aren't going to try very hard to stop people leaving France. They quite like to see them go. And that's not going to work. Rwanda is not going to work for the reasons I've said. We have to come up with another idea. And why not? I mean, what's wrong with this idea? I think Suella Braverman, who's probably going to be the next Home Secretary, should look at it. Priti Patel spent 8 months coming up with the Rwanda idea, and it's not going to fly. It just is not going to work.
No, I think they should listen to you. Star Daily Mail columnist Stephen Glover with his plan to solve the migrant crisis and save the Tories in the process. I love it. Stephen, thank you so much. We'll speak very soon. But it's time now to reveal today's greatest Briton and Union Jackass. My superstar panel return, Christopher Hope. Who's your greatest Briton tonight?
Well, mine is my wife, Sarah Hope, who I married 25 years ago tomorrow, the love of my life.
Oh, beautiful. And you haven't aged at all, Christopher.
It's gone
Not
grey.
at all. Just a little bit grey. Nina Mishkov, your Greatest Britain nominee.
Oh, it's an honorary one because he's American. It's the 16-year-old son of Taylor Hawkins, the sadly late drummer of the Foo Fighters. There was a big concert on Saturday night at Wembley, and the 16-year-old, he played his dad's drums, and, you know, it's just heartbreaking to see him. Such a sweet little face, such a talent. So good on him. It must have cost him a lot to do it.
That was a wonderful moment, actually. And Belinda de Lucy, your Greatest Britain nominee.
My Greatest Britain has to be Liz Truss for at least saving us from centrist Rishi EU wet wipe. We don't have him as PM, so thank you, Liz Truss, for doing that today.
Yeah, indeed. I totally agree. In fact, you know, there were so many things that could be celebrated today, but for me, I think the main celebration was that we don't have Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister, because that would have been a victory for the dangerous globalists, it would have been a victory for the Boris backstabbers, it would have been a victory for the lockdown fanatics, it would have been a victory for Sage, you know, a victory for Matt Hancock. No, thank you. So, yes, congratulations, Liz Truss. Of course, on the day that she finds out she's going to become Prime Minister, she has to be our Greatest Britain. Very little debate about that. Christopher Hope, your Union Jackass nominee, please.
For me, it's Joe Lycett, this left-wing stroke right-wing comedian who made the first big outing for the new Prime Minister on BBC Laura Kuenssberg's show, all about him, when really it should have been about what the Prime Minister had to say, as was in waiting. And I think things she said on tax, she deserves more respect, Liz Truss, figure on the BBC, than to be yelled at and mocked in that way.
I thought he was hilarious.
Oh, did you? I think he should be done by the Trade Descriptions Act, Nina, because he doesn't feel like a comedian to me. I mean, there was nothing funny about it.
A lot of us were laughing, I have to tell you, and still are.
I think a lot of you on the far left. Nina Mishkov, your Union Jackass.
I'm not on the far left. I haven't voted Labour since the Iraq War.
OK, who's your Union Jackass nominee?
My Jackass is Liz Truss. because
Twitter in a nutshell. That's Twitter defined by Nina Mishkov for you.
Because she is second-rate in the dregs of a dying Tory party. Hopefully,
no, you're not on the far left.
No, I'm not on the far left. I'm very centre. I am very centre. I'm very sensible.
Doesn't sound like it.
I would like a general election, and I would like.
You would be backing Liz Truss. Belinda de Lucy, your Union Jackass nominee.
Oh dear! If Liz was so bad, you'd all be celebrating that, so I don't get it. Anyway, my Jackass has to be the common couple, the Meghan and Harry, just because I can't get away from them, and the cringe factor of Meghan's speech today. It's unfair on us, so they get it today.
It's unfair for us to have to listen to that sort of Californian, meaningless mumbo-jumbo. Keep it in Los Angeles and Montecito and keep it away from the UK. But look, I'm going to go with Christopher Hope and Joe Lycett because he's not funny. There was nothing funny about it. He ruined that show. He's not a comedian. He's just a political interloper. Christopher Hope, Nina Mishkov, Belinda de Lucy, my superstar panel. I'm back again tomorrow from 9 p.m. Good night.
Evening, I'm Alex Deakin with your latest weather update from the Met Office. Tomorrow will bring another mixture of sunshine and showers, but probably more showers tomorrow compared to today. And again, there could be some thunderstorms too. This area of low pressure is driving our weather, and it's not moving very far, very quickly. It will control our weather throughout this week. One line of heavy showers is drifting northwards at the moment. We have a Met Office yellow warning in place across parts of England and Wales. A lot of rain falling in a short space of time. You may get woken up overnight by a flash of lightning or a rumble of thunder once more. Those heavy showers drifting northwards into parts of Scotland by dawn. Behind, actually, many places becoming drier through the early hours. Quite a warm, humid night yet again. Tuesday will again be a mixture of sunshine and showers, many places starting dry, but showers becoming pretty widespread pretty quickly across Scotland and northern England. Again, some thunderstorms are possible, and then we'll see more heavy showers developing across parts of England and Wales during the day. Again, if you don't see the showers, and some will avoid them in the sunshine, feeling quite pleasant with temperatures in the high teens or low 20s. But more downpours to come, the potential for some pretty tricky driving conditions throughout Tuesday. Heavy downpours, a lot of spray, surface water on the roads, hail and thunder mixed in as well. And you can see these showers really just keep on churning across the country as you head into Wednesday. There's the low pressure system just sending gusty winds at times into the southwest and throwing up more heavy showers during Wednesday. Again, many places will be dry at first on Wednesday, but certainly by the afternoon, widespread heavy showers, thunderstorms in places. The wind's coming up from the south, though, so it's relatively warm and humid air with temperatures, again, into the high teens or the low 20s. The outlook, well, more of the same, really. That low pressure continuing to control our weather. Lots of heavy showers Thursday, Friday. Signs of things turning a little drier for most of us on Saturday.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
for helping our great nation.
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
On radio
And online.
we're proud to be the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Good evening. We begin this bulletin with some breaking news from Canada, where police say they found a body they believe to be one of the fugitives that's been on the run in the mass stabbing event that killed 10 people. Police say brothers Damien and Miles Sanderson attacked people at 13 separate locations. They're still looking for one of them, Miles Sanderson. 19 other people were also injured in Saskatchewan in Canada yesterday. And this evening, the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, has promised the full support of the Canadian government.
Tragedies like these have become all too commonplace. Saskatchewanians and Canadians will do what we always do in times of difficulty and anguish. We'll be there for each other. Be there for our neighbours, lean on each other, help grieve and help heal.
Well, here Liz Truss has promised to cut taxes and deliver on energy and the NHS as she prepares to become Britain's 56th and third female Prime Minister. She beat Rishi Sunak by a 57% majority vote ahead of Tory MPs to become the next Conservative Party leader. Ahead of an expected cabinet reshuffle, Priti Patel resigned tonight as Home Secretary and Nadine Dorries as Culture Secretary, with both to return to the backbenches. In her victory speech, Liz Truss said it was an honour to be elected.
It's an honour to be elected as leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party. I will deliver a bold plan to cut taxes and grow our economy. I will deliver on the energy crisis, dealing with people's energy bills, but also dealing with the long-term issues we have on energy supply.
In central London today, dozens of people protested against the government's decision to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. Demonstrators chanted, "Refugees are welcome here," outside the Royal Courts of Justice, as a hearing challenged the plan inside. The High Court heard Rwanda was an authoritarian state that tortured and murdered those it considered to be opponents, whilst the Home Office countered, saying the country was safe and secure. The Duchess of Sussex has appeared on stage at a global summit for young leaders tonight, saying it's nice to be back in the UK. Meghan Markle, accompanied by her husband, Prince Harry, gave a keynote speech at the opening ceremony of One Young World in Manchester, an event which brings together 2,000 young leaders from 200 countries across the world. It's her first address in the UK since quitting as a working royal more than 2 years ago.
The important work can't wait for tomorrow. And this week, the world is watching as you cement your place in history by showcasing the good that you are doing today, in the present moment, as we embrace the moment of now to create a better tomorrow.
Meghan Markle speaking in Manchester tonight. You're up to date on TV, online and on DAB+ radio. You're with GB News, where now it's time for Headliners.
Thank you, Polly. Hello, welcome to Headliners. I am Simon Evans, and joining me tonight we have two headliners, stalwarts, emphasis on the warts. It is Josh Howie and Nick Dixon, both wartless, actually. Well, as far as anyone can see, and that would be inappropriate. But how are you, gentlemen?
Good, yes. Back from holiday, feeling very relaxed.
Did you have an actual family holiday?
Actual family, learnt their names again.
Fantastic.
Fell back in love.
Arranged them in order.
Arranged them in order, yeah. Contract styly.
Yeah, where did you go?
Crete.
Nice, we went to Crete a bit earlier. Noisy. Insects.
That's probably.
Cicadas.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you were because you were next to us.
Yeah,
But,
no, it was. How about you, Nick? Had a holiday?